This is the first panel that we are having about, because envisioning future of education is like something which all of us want to make some change. And safe environment is something like we sometimes take a backseat, especially when it comes to safe environment in the education space. So that is the least concern until and unless there is some alarm of something that's happening and where we say, yeah, we need to take some precautions and let's start doing it. We go up to 0.100 and then again it comes down, right? So, sir, I would request each of our panelists to give your thoughts about what do you feel about the safe environment and how important it is for us in the education space.
At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Shanthi and the Global Connect Education team for having invited me for this panel discussion. So when we talk about safe environment, safety, when we talk anything about child safety, I would say that I would start off by saying that it's the right of the child. We must all remember that we are not doing a favor to a child. So it's actually a child's right, and we are just providing the child's right. And safe environments, whether it's the home environment, school environment, neighborhood, wherever it is, it needs to be ensured for every child. So each child should feel safe. And in fact, when it comes to the subjective well-being of children, that is the child itself, when we ask the child's perspective, in fact, Snehal Madam was also talking about it. So sometimes as adults, we share our perspectives and we feel that is something, child also, our children also have to accept. But when we talk to children about their own well-being, the subjective well-being that they express is that the first point is that we need to feel safe and secure. So that is something as our, we are duty bound to provide that in each of these environments.
Thank you, sir. So from the climate perspective, because you have contributed a lot, so how would you think creating a safe environment would also bring in a lot of positivity in the coming future?
At the outset, I thank Shanthi. She delivered a full-time baby, healthy baby, to take it forward today. And Shanthi means peace. She's peacefully called everybody, making to use it here, and some technical problem. Immediately, she's peaceful lady with grit to do the thing. And also she has a support, none other than her husband. His name is? Sathish, of course. Satyadeisha Sathish. His truthfulness, gritness and peace, I think they can take it forward. It has got a bright future. Coming to the environment is only short period. It may be hours, days and weeks. Climate is the one, at least minimum 30 years you have to practice. You have to create a climate for the children, for the future. What you have been doing, this one helps in children to accept the international culture. How best we can able to progress in that one. And also trying to look for their new technology, how best we can able to adopt for the sustenance of the future. I think very much needed. I like to see we have to create a good climate with this environment to take it forward for a sustenance of all the species living on the earth, not only human being. I am for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, sir, coming with extended talk of what Paramesh sir was saying, how do we look at peace? So that is what is yoga, and the naturopathy talks a lot about it, and it needs to imbibe within us to bring in a lot of positivity and also to create a positive environment around. So how do you think we could make it as a regular practice to create a positive environment in education and a safe environment?
Thank you, Shanthi ma'am. I really appreciate your initiative, and then as sir beautifully put it. About the safe environment, the physical environment, which anyway we always give to the students, but then the mental environment which we need to create for the students is also equally important. It's not only inspiring the students to learn new things and to get excited about what is relevant for them, but it's also equally important for us to teach them what not to learn. That's the training of the mind, which is very, very important. So it's just not only the inspiration. Doing good thing is very, we should encourage the children to do that, but then also to make them aware the bad effects of doing the bad things. That is also equally important. She was asking about the peace. The peace, we all strive to, have a peaceful environment and good environment. I want peace. I mean, that's the slogan which we always have. And then, but, to get that peace, you have to remove that want and you have to remove that I. Peace is always there. In that sentence, I want peace, peace is there. But you just have to remove want, which is desire, excessive desire. No, we cannot say that we do not have, and we should not have desires. But then there is a ceiling on the desires, which is actually, because that will help us to grow. Remove the desires, that's removing the wants, and then removing this I, which is the ego. Oftentimes we get into problem only because of this. We think we know so many things, and then others should respect and all that. So limiting that ego. Again, ego is necessary for our living existence and in day-to-day, transactions. But then limiting that. So in a sense, the limiting or sealing on the desires, sealing on our ego part can really give you peace. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we come back to some specific questions, like because of each of your expertise in various domains. So Mr. John, sir, like how do you see in terms of seeing the kind of statistics that you have, people visiting to NIMHANS at Adult and Psychiatry department? And what could be the average kind of students who are coming in, children or adults, and what would be the kind of challenges that they are facing who are coming to you frequently? If you can just throw some light on that.
First and foremost, if we look at the child and adolescent population itself in our country, even as per the previous census, though current census has not happened. So previous census itself, the estimates are that 39% of the population is below the age of 18 years, and several mental health surveys in the community have shown that close to almost 6 to 7% of this age group has diagnosable mental health conditions. Especially the community surveys have shown that the large number of them have developmental conditions like ADHD, learning disorders, autism spectrum disorder, etc. And also mental illnesses, the common of them being depression, anxiety disorders, etc. So when it comes to our clinical setting, what we see is, and this is not just our clinical setting at NIMHANS, but generally within India, one more point I would like to highlight is the resource gap. Or in other ways, even the World Health Organization also has talked about the mental health gap. This is also been talked about in the adults, but this is again more of a serious problem, and it's I would say a public health concern in the child and adolescent population, in that the dedicated resources for child mental health problems are very limited, whereas the burden is quite significant. So in fact, one way of looking at it is a 90-10 kind of ratio. So 90% being the kind of problem, and dedicated resource, when I say dedicated resources, exclusive resources of mental health professionals working, it could be psychiatrists, psychologists, psychiatric social workers, and the other relevant trained professionals working with this specific population rather than involving themselves, with the mental health problems in the adults. That numbers are very limited, and compared to the other, like especially many of the developed countries. And this kind of ratio is there in the other low middle income countries also. But given our population is so huge, this becomes a very alarming kind of situation. Then coming to our departmental statistic, on any, like we have outpatient clinic on all the days, Monday to Saturday. Even when I am talking here, my colleagues are there in the OPD today. So on an average, we see around 45 to 50, what we call the new kind of our screening, consultations, which the first visits. And also every day we see close to around 140, around 110 to 120, follow-up kind of patients. Put together, actually, this number is about 150 to 160 children every day in the OPD. That is, in one particular service. There are other centers within Bangalore and other parts of the country also. But this is just a tip of the iceberg kind of phenomena, wherein it's estimated that for every one child child or adolescent who eventually is brought to the clinical setting by the parents or caregivers, or who gets picked up by a very sensitive teacher in a school context and gets referred, there are almost 10 to 15 children out there in the community. For every child who comes to a clinical setting, 10 to 15 of them with mental health problems in the community, who are, for some reason, they are not able to reach the services. One is the service gap itself. Second thing is the lack of awareness. Then there is also this factor of stigma, etc. Then this problem as an acute kind of manifestation we have seen during the COVID pandemic also, and many of you are very well aware that lot of importance has come to mental health during the COVID pandemic, and subsequently a lot of discussions have happened around mental health, especially child mental health. And even in the year 2021, just as we are coming out of the COVID pandemic, the UNICEF had done work and published the Status of World's Children report, wherein it's alarming, like the trends from some of the low and middle income countries is that one out of every 6 or 7 adolescents having mental health issues. And no, I'm not saying that all of them have a diagnosis level problems, but definitely even if it's a subdiagnostic kind of threshold, it still causes distress and impairment of functioning. So that is what we are dealing with.
Wow, thank you, sir. Thank you for such a wonderful insight, because I'm sure the statistics that you have shared is beyond what any of us could think of. 39% and 150 children visiting the OPD every time, and so much so we need to really gear up as educators and as all the other para-counseling and support system that we could give for the child. So only then, because we just take it for granted sometimes, saying that, oh, it's nothing, it can be solved, but that's not it. So thanks for giving such a wonderful insight. So Dr. Paramesh, so my question to you is, like, climate to whom is such an exciting thing to know. So I think this would be a wonderful extension of what Dr. John was talking about. So can you just give us some insight about the climate to whom?
I think we all know environmental pollution in general is a significant factor, significant psycho-socio-economic burden it causes. 70% environmental pollution is from the air pollution, 20% from the water-related, 10% comes from the earth and chemicals, what we have been using, pesticide and all these things. So I concentrate on the air pollution. 70% of the diseases from the air pollution, non-communicable diseases. And the environmental pollution, the economic burden to us is $4.6 trillion per year. And also, when we talk about the air pollution, particulate matters are there and gases are there. Two important things you have to concentrate: what is the size of the particle, what if the gas is really dissolvable in the water or not. Why it is important, you can tell where exactly it affects in the respiratory tract, either the nose or sinuses or respiratory tract and alveoli where gas happens, and small, less than 2.4 particle and water soluble, the insoluble one, they cross the 7 layers of the lung, enter the bloodstream. When they enter the bloodstream, when the mucous membrane, small clots will form from the platelet aggregation. That will, if the mother is carrying, deposit on the womb, placenta. Placenta is the nutrition factor. Depending on the seriousness of that one, you have the stillbirth, and if it is less, you have the premature birth. If it is little less, small for date, even though mother carries full 9 months, weight will be premature birth. Those children born with this small airway caliber, they lifelong they'll suffer in their lung diseases. These are all the recent things. That's what I said, womb to toe. And our other particulate matter will carry it, circulate all over the body. All the vital organs affected, predominantly brain will be affected. Brain will be affected. That's why air pollution has got an impact on womb to tomb. And nearly 49% of the chronic lung diseases, 29% of the lung cancer, 25% of the early heart attack, 24% of the stroke are related to the air pollution, which is a silent killer. This is the womb to tomb I mentioned about it.
Yes,
Thank you.
We had such a wonderful conversation about this, and that's the reason I put this tagline. Because many of us would really want to know, because it's quite alarming to see that, the number of children who are born with special needs. So that was the reason why I thought having this topic was very essential.
It is true, and also studies have been done. If there is a 2.5 micron increase from 35 to 55, there is 4 times increase in the asthma. And also the small particle affects the brain also, polluted air. We lost hair mainly from the pollution also. One can lose hair, baldness, and it can come from that one also. And second thing is affects the behavior pattern of the children. If you give an examination in a hall which is highly polluted, the score will be 10% less. Brilliant. Same thing with good atmosphere, they will score higher. Crime rate increase because of some autism, you name it, all related to the air pollution. Diabetes related to air pollution. Kidney disease is related to air pollution. Not only air pollution, in addition to the heat waves that itself can produce. Various multiple organs get involved in, including the brain. There are 4 ways brain get affected. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was such an insightful. Did any of us would ever think that the air pollution could bring in so many things? Not at all, right? I mean, it's with the statistics shared by you is very alarming, actually. So we were always thinking the other side of research, but bringing in this from the climate perspective was wonderful, sir. Thank you so much. So from the Vyasa University point of view, because we see that you are doing a wonderful job, and it's always stand apart from the other universities. The focus line is different. So how do you think that it could be different and that can contribute in terms of bringing in a safe environment that we are talking about today?
At Vyasa, we are promoting a lifestyle which is, if I may use this word, modern Gurukula system. The ancient Gurukula system tempered with the modernity. So that's why I call it as a modern Gurukula system. Because we do have, we never had so much of problems, say a few hundred years back. All these have developed because of our evolution of the technology and all the things which are connected with that thing, either pollution or any other thing. I'll just borrow the same thing, the statistic which Sir mentioned. 70% he says are these people are suffering with psychosomatic diseases. They are the body-mind related. And most of that thing is actually are born in the mind. They call it Adija Vyadhi. The Vyadhi or the disease which is born from the mind, which it shows itself eventually at the body level. Anadija Vyadi, that is not born out of this, of course, is like, you have an accident and sudden things which happen. But most of our diseases, as we see now, is actually Adija Vyadi. They are actually born out of our mind. So controlling of the mind is the most essential in the yogic way of life. And the Patanjali Yoga Sutra of the Indian scriptures actually talks about this. This has nothing to do with religion. It is actually a controlling of the mind. You can achieve so many things. Everything is dependent on the mind. It says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Arresting the fluctuations of the mind is yoga. It's not just the physical asanas which you do, or the pranayama and the breath control which you do. It's much more. All these are actually an aid to control this mind. If you were to control this mind, you can be an Einstein. If you do not control the mind, if it goes Barsak, you can be a Fidain. You can be any of these things. Or terrorists. It's just the mind which is really controlled can benefit the humanity, which is uncontrolled, which is unbridled freedom actually makes it happen. So in the yogic lifestyle, one of the things which there is, as I was mentioning even earlier, the restraints on our wants, on our living. That actually keeps us healthy, happy, and we actually create a very, very safe environment. So controlling of rather regulating the mind for a higher living will give you a safer environment for the child and for all of us.
So I think that's what the university focuses on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah. So, coming back to POCSO is more than 10 years now, and we still see a lot of challenge in implementing of POCSO Act, and that is one of the most important law that is coming, looking at the various aspects. So can you just throw up some light on the POCSO Act and how important it is, and if you've seen those kind of cases, how they're dealing with it? Do children really come out, and is it an easy phase for them to actually go through the whole process?
The Protection of Children from Sexual Offences, POCSO legislation came into existence. All of us, we know that it was in the year 2012. And prior to 2012, there were no such specific legislations for child sexual abuse in the Indian context. Once this legislation has come into the picture, the POCSO Act itself defines, there is the child sexual abuse itself is very broadly defined, and it can be broadly into the non-contact form of abuse or contact form of abuse, and non-contact abuse usually includes the sexual harassment or exposing the child to some inappropriate material, which is unfortunately is becoming very common with all these gadgets and all, where sometimes children may get exposed accidentally, or sometimes deliberately the person who intends to abuse the child may expose them to that material, to more serious offenses like sexually assaulting children. And some of the instances we see daily when we open the newspapers, or when we look at the news in any news portal, web channel. Unfortunately, in the country, actually, at least one or two incidents we see child sexual abuse, which make it to the headlines. But what we need to remember is that there are many incidents, especially the non-contact form of abuse, that doesn't get reported at all. The other challenge is that children often, studies have been done in the Indian context, wherein and even based on the experience of people who have both the non-governmental organizations and even some of us who have worked in the government institutions also, when we work with children who have been who are survivors of this child sexual abuse, oftentimes they don't disclose about the abuse. So in fact, the rates of this non-disclosure is quite high, almost 70%. one primary reason for that is the child feels that like suppose they are going to go and tell a parent, or they are going to tell a relative, or some adult person, a teacher or whoever it could be. The first response usually is that one of non-belief, saying that no, it might not have happened. What are you talking? Okay, and no, this is something just you have imagined. Okay, so he is our neighbor or he is our relative. That is about the perpetrator. So because most of the cases of child sexual abuse, again, in the Indian literature, what we see is 60 to 70% of the instances by a known person. And the other challenge is we see that the abuse can happen across a broad age range, like sometimes shockingly very young children getting abused, even at the play school or nursery level, to that happening to the older adolescents, like 16, 17, 18 years age group. Different age groups, different social strata, urban, rural, across these kind of domains, actually we see that it's quite common. And the other challenge is that like even when disclosure happens, the post disclosure kind of challenges, because one is, even eventually once the family members, they start accepting that yes, this child has been subjected to this trauma, after that what, like so they have to file a complaint against the perpetrator. Then what happens is, parallelly that system takes over, like the legal system takes over, and after filing the complaint, the procedures happen, and finally by the time, though the POCSO Act clearly mentions that the trial has to be completed within 1 year, and special courts have to be established, and even with the POCSO amendments also more recently, punishments, strict punishments has to be awarded, and clearly in the act itself they have defined, and support to the survivor, how it has to provide, and all those things. But unfortunately the reality is, if you look at the pendency of cases in this POCSO across the country, it's not one particular state or union territory, it's huge, that is running into several lakhs. So you can imagine that what is the, and what happens is many families, they hesitate to report because this process itself can be quite tedious, and one of the terms we use there is secondary victimization. That is, already the child has been traumatized because of this sexual abuse. Then this, with great difficulty, actual child comes forward and discloses about this abuse. But what happens post disclosure is even more traumatic for the child, like so right from recording of the police, filing of the FIR, recording of the police statement, then under 164 CRPC going in front of the magistrate and giving a statement again. Then finally when the trial court proceedings start, whenever it is, like maybe after a couple of years or much later, going every time to the court sessions and facing this very difficult situation in the court, though in the legislations everywhere, it's, in fact, POCSO Act is a very comprehensive act, very good act. Now I'm not saying that POCSO Act is a bad act, but when it comes to the implementation, there are all these challenges and there are a lot of difficulties which children and families face. And the last thing I would like to add is the parallel legal process and all those things will continue. But more importantly, for the child himself or herself, and this age group also I mentioned, like right from maybe 1 or 2 year old children to 16, 17 year old people getting abused, the impact it has, because that itself is a very adverse childhood experience. The impact of the traumatic experience in two facets we have to think of. One is on the child development itself. The second facet is what we call as the child mental health, and of course the physical health also, because world over research has shown that this kind of traumatic experiences has long-term kind of sequelae on the mental health as well as the physical health of the individual. So we may just take it lightly, saying that only once that fellow has passed some kind of adverse sexual comment on the child, what is there, and sometimes we'll trivialize, he didn't sexually assault you, so he just passed some comment, just ignore and go. But for that child, how that child internalizes that and how that child processes that particular thing, and again it can vary from children to children, but however it's a very adverse impact that can happen, and even the physical health impact also. It is proven through research that child survivors, as they continue into the adulthood, many of them are at risk of many physical health problems, cardiovascular problems, and musculoskeletal and other long-term kind of physical health problems, because sir again pointed out the interaction between body and mind, because something that affects the mind will not leave the body.
Thank you, sir. So it's just in this process, I wanted to share a small thing. It's when you were mentioning about a child being sexually abused and then, go through the whole process. It's a small thing when we were doing some counseling for children. And as the child is grown up, so one of the psychologists, we were having a conversation. In the process, what we heard was a child was sexually abused by a neighbor. And he has not mentioned it going forward, but he always had this question of saying, so as he was growing in his pre-teens, so why did this happen to me? Because I'm not a girl. Okay, so then why did this happen to me, and why did this person do this to me? And as he's being an adult, and when he really wanted to go into a marriage state, but he also was trying to figure out his sexual orientation of what is it, should I really get married, or am I mentally prepared to be married to a female partner? So this is a deep crisis that happens. So I just thought I could share this with you. So Dr. Paramesh sir, so I have the last question for you is what are the kind of researches that is happening, and what do you think is best practices that we could actually start inculcating as every citizen's responsibility to add value to our, safe environment? So if all of us could put in a little bit so that we can make the air pollution and the environment a much safer place.
I think we all agreed in 2015, November, I think in Paris Accord, each one of us has to do it. Each country has to contribute its own thing. And also our government agreed 30% of the carbon footprint will reduce by 2030, and by 2070, 100%. I think America will withdraw it. At that time, it didn't come. They are the biggest contributors. They withdrew it. Trump was there. Now he has come back. We might have to request to contribute. But they are the biggest country contributing. We are less contributor. We are paying for all those things. That is one thing. And individually what we can do ourselves while government trying to do their best. So what the International Society, United Nations says, we have to reduce carbon footprint to 2 tons per person. America produces over 16 tons per person. International 4 tons per person. India contribute only 1.05%. But still we agreed 2 tons every person is a recommendation, which we are doing, government doing its own thing. What we can do individually, I listed about 10 of them so that I don't forget. He is related to sometime, one has to forget it. Orderly, I like to go with this one. After 65 years, your memory has to come down. Slowly it comes down. It is nothing wrong with that one. But we don't lose the memory. Unlike Alzheimer, we don't lose the memory. But only interconnection is little delayed. Faces will remember after, oh, what is your name? Later on it comes there. So memory is never lost. It takes a little delay. You have to put up with me. Okay. First thing is, save energy at home. How you can save? When you're not using, turn off the fan, turn off the light, unless you don't waste energy. And also best thing to use the LED light. LED light. LED light is good luminance, less energy, cheaper, long duration. But avoid blue tinge in it. Why blue tinge in it? It keeps you awake and decreases the secretion of melatonin in the brain. Melatonin is the hormone produced in the brain to healing process. At night time it produces, from 9 o'clock it starts producing, 7:30 a.m. any disease, any environmental pollution, it will heal. That the nature has provided. That will be reduced in blue light. In bedroom, don't use the blue light. And also don't put the light in the trees and the buildings.
Oh.
That's a great loss because nearly 650 million birds die every year because the circadian, each animal has got it. When they're going, they hit the windows. We should cover the screen and all the things. Don't do that one. Street light has to be street lighting, not to the trees.
Yeah.
I think our government has to use the blue light. If yellow tinge, red tinge is okay. Blue tinge make you awake. Yellow and red tinge go to sleep. I think these are all the one thing we have to keep it in mind. And also, if you want to go here and around, walk, bike, use public transport. That also nearly 1.8 tons of carbon dioxide footprint if you use the public. If you don't have any car, you can name nearly 2 tons of carbon footprint if you use the public transport. Eat more vegetables. What happens? Carbon footprint is less in the vegetarian. 1 kg vegetable, it produces 1 kg of carbon footprint. Non-vegetarian, 1 kg of non-vegetarian produces 5 to 35 tons, 35 kg. Red meat, beef is the worst one, 35 kg per kg it comes there. So use non-vegetarian, use it, but more vegetarians. Government recommended Food Authority of India 2019, whatever you want to eat 10% less so that you don't get obesity and all this thing. Less salt, less sugar, less oil. Okay. These are the recommendations. And consider your travel, need-based flight. I think what happens, if you travel from Delhi to London, you need to produce 1 ton carbon footprint. Coming back and here, 2 ton. 1 hour flight, you produce up 90 kg of footprint. So try to avoid flighting as much as possible. Since my children are there in America, I used to go twice a year to Geneva, at least 6 times internationally. After COVID, I never traveled 4 years. From next year, I'm going to travel from UC.
Oh,
okay. What we preach, we have to practice. That's what I have not traveled for the past 4 years. And throw away less food. I think growing the food and all this thing, a lot of waste will be there. It should not be wasted. Whatever the food left behind, use a composting in your house only. In the land, if it's not there, compost it in that one. Use for the plants what you're having, the rooftop and all this thing. So don't waste. Composting is there. Organic food, you can grow itself. Change your source of energy. I think Vastu, it tells earlier, Vastu is based on Vedic mathematics. It tells where should be your kitchen, where should be depending on the Windows data. That tells the smell don't come to the living room, and also flies and insects don't come into the room. You can avoid various things. And that's what it means. And also, what you can do is, refrigerator, frosting is there, defrost it. If frosting is there, no energy, utilize it. And also, when you're cooking, you're going to a small omelette you're making, you got a big pan, waste of energy. Use the appropriate vessels for that one. And also, when your fire comes there, it should be blue tinged. That means energy being utilized effectively. If you yellow tinge, it is not used. These are some of the things what we can practice. And reduce, reuse, repair, and recycle. That's our tradition. I think Terry has been done in 2016. 75% of the one we reuse, American only they throw away. Less than 15% they use it. That contributes significantly for various things. So we should use it. And also, sale is there, you go and buy lot of dress. Even 1 year you don't open it. Need-based purchase has to be there. Unnecessary purchasing is not good. And okay, switch to electrical vehicles. If you switch to electrical vehicles, I think nearly 0.9 to 1 ton of carbon footprint, you can save it. You can save it. And also energy, I still remember my late dear friend Raja Ramanna. Many people know Raja Ramanna? Yes, he the first one blasted the atomic bomb 1974. Yes, and we were very close friends, and such a simple, honest man, ready to find a. So I can quote various examples with him. And he used to say, some of the dias we shared in talking about that, when he said, India should go clean energy, that is, come from the atomic energy. And we can use the thorium so that we don't depend on the uranium for other countries. Thorium, the waste can be stored effectively in the same plant. When it comes to some research might come, Raja Ramanna was saying we have to use the thorium and all this thing, and it can be stored. Now, 2 years back, the waste can be reutilized. It has come there. China going from 9% to 20% clean energy by 2030. So what happened? If we use the cooking and all this thing, agricultural waste and barony and wood, nearly 48% of those children develop asthma. Electricity is only 1.1%. And gas is only 3%. Gas is best, but still not the best. Electricity is that. We have to think for various sources, windmill and the solar heating and the waves of the ocean, we can generate electricity. So these are all some of the alternative things we look for it. And switch to eco-friendly product, local and seasonal. When you're buying in the store, where is vegetable? The company which has been encouraging more of this organic matter and all that they care for energy, you encourage those type of people. And safeguard your green space. That is important. We have green space. What had happened? Bangalore, it was in 1973, we had 68.8% of the greenery in Bangalore. Now, 2022, what is it? 2.9% greenery. All the cement jungle is taken over. We are in the heat island. Bangalore is a heat island. Every city is heat island. Why it is heat island? Because we are 2 degree temperature higher during daytime and nighttime when compared to even in the rural area, industrial area, we are higher. Tall buildings are coming around here. Why it is cement jungle that emits the heat at night time, absorb more heat during. That is the one. That is the number one cause, 90%. Other one is a lot of vehicles going around, emission, that is another one. And also loss of greenery. We have to maintain sports arenas. Arenas all over, is there cricket club, those things, golf club, and also turf club, and all the park we have to maintain. And also next thing is green. Politicians say maintain the greenery. What is the economic ground? 1 rupee you spend on 1 inch of greenery, you earn 34 times more health benefits. There are enough studies in there, not 34%, 34 times. That's why there's some article I have written, I'll forward it to you later on in this. Gomalas you have to maintain. Nearly Bangalore occupied 1,209 villages. Villages, earlier we had Gomalas. Gomalas are breathing space for us. For 100 cows, 30 acres of land, Karnataka government operated. Those Gomalas are returned. Supreme Court judgment is that 2021, all the Gomalas have retrieved, they make a green spaces for breathing spaces for us. And then lastly, speak up to the policymakers, so scientists, researchers, and politicians, so that our national ethos, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What does it mean? One earth, one family, one future. Let us all peacefully live together. I think 7th September since 1919, clean air, blue skies has been community nature. They're celebrating it. Yesterday night, I was with the internet, contacting with our UN General, Secretary General. I commented certain thing on that one. I think what we said, 30 tons we have to reduce in 24, it is not possible. Next impossible. Because we have to reduce 47%. Because economic burden is there, economic gap is there. Up till 2022, we used to have $28 billion per year is needed. For 2025, we need $358 billion. Who is going to give it? That gap is there. And education is there. Education is already, people are already knowing it. I think if you go to Vidhan Sauda, a 70-year lady, she cooks the corn on the cob and the solar light. And that level it has gone there. She's 75-year-old earning her livelihood. I have taken her photo and presenting it. And our Salomarda Timmaka, each one teach one, plant one tree, my statement to all of you. And maintain it. It gives oxygen for 4 people free of cost. Yes. Do you know how much oxygen we need? We're quietly spitting in 500 liters. Active people like us, we need 1,000 liters of oxygen per day. What is the cost? 30 rupees per liter. Okay? 30% liquid needs about 30,000 rupees. Free of cost. All of you have car, isn't it?
Yes.
Vehicle. Car, does it need oxygen? I think car needs 1,700 liters to burn 1 liter of petrol or diesel. How much oxygen? Nearly 50,000 rupees. Nearly 1 lakh of rupees oxygen nature is providing. We are spoiling it. We are the root cause for all of this. Greed in us. Earlier pollution was there. Society forgive them because their innocence was there. Here there is no innocence. Greed in us causing all this problem, causing psycho-socio-economic burden. So anyway, thank you very much. And Paramesh 4P, you remember. What 4P? Go with always positive mind. We can achieve.
Yes.
Number 1. Number 2, protect the Mother Earth at any cost. Number 3, and pursue the research based on our need. Think locally, act locally, propagate globally. And propagate our national ethos, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Thank you very much. Your patient hearing.
So, sir, my last question for you is like, how do you think the university, as well as what are the kind of best practices that people should share? I mean, to take it forward, to have a safe environment. I think you've explained it enough. But is there any kind of research papers that you have, the university has, which can actually proven our the further to say that these are the very good practices that we could actually inculcate in our education system?
Though I have mentioned so much about the yoga, but then unless it becomes socially, evidence-based science, naturally people are not going to accept it. And then Vyasa has been trying in actually establishing that particular aspect. How do we make the yogasanas or the pranayama practices and these practices which are traditional practices, how do you show them that they actually work? And we've been in this field for almost 35 to 40 years. And then we have produced many papers to show that these ancient practices can be practiced by everyone and then everyone get the benefit. The point in question which she asked me was we had a project from the IISC department. It was a Stop Diabetic movement. Diabetes, India is considered to be going to be the capital, or has already become the capital of diabetes. And then government has been trying very hard to see how we can prevent and then also manage this diabetic load. It was from 2016, and then we just finished it in 2019, just before the COVID. There were 250,000 subjects were from across the 22 states were conducted. The objective of that one is how to prevent the pre-diabetic people becoming diabetic, and then how to manage the ones who have already been proved to be diabetic. And then we have a very, very successful in using yoga, pranayama techniques, the breathing techniques, and also the lifestyle change, which I was talking about, which is very, very important. And we had proved in no uncertain terms. We published 40 papers on that. Usually we accept something which is proved scientifically. And that's what we were endeavoring to do. And then we've seen that these practices which are there in our culture are very, very useful, and then they can bring health, wealth, and prosperity. And then, as maybe again I try to quote, Sir was mentioning about the excessive greed which we have. As Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, has mentioned, that we have enough on the earth to satisfy everyone's need, but not even one person's greed. So the greed is the one which actually is sapping our energies and sapping all our resources. So controlling them, and then that can really having a desire, feeling on our desires can really make us go a long way. And yoga actually promotes that sort of lifestyle change, which actually can bring prosperity and health and peace and a safe environment for all of us to live happily, and it is scientifically proved. Thank you.
So, sir, to conclude, Mr. John, so Dr. John, I wanted you to just tell us, like, what are the best practices that can be followed in institutions as well as at home? So, few pointers that can help all of us to see to that we create a safe environment for children.
So, when we talk about the best practices in different environments, safety, any discussions about safety should start in the home environment. And at home, actually, I think the key role is to be played by the parents of the child. And parents always should have an open and honest communication with the child. And already I have mentioned in my initial comments that it is the right of the child to feel safe, and also to feel that they are given that sense of agency, and they are given that opportunities, the various experiences as they grow, right through the childhood into the adolescence phase, and beyond that, once they become the adults. Through that journey, actually, the children have to feel safe. So, as I mentioned, it has to start at home. When it comes to the institutions, among the various institutions, the schools and colleges, they play a very important role, because after homes, actually the children and adolescents are going to spend significant amount of their time in such institutions. And the schools and colleges should have a clear policy when it comes to the child safety, child or adolescent safety. And they also, especially in the school or college setting, the teachers, the school counselors or college counselors, or the other staff who work in these institutions, they have a duty towards the children and adolescents to ensure the safety, and regular sensitization programs with regards to this child and adolescent safety has to be conducted in these premises. And also, as initially Dr. Shanthi mentioned about, it's not it's a we, actually, and everyone has to work together. It's not a single person can't bring about this kind of change. So everyone, it's parents, it's teachers, it's school management, college managements, counselors, mental health professionals, everyone put together. And even sir had highlighted the role of politicians, policymakers, etc. They have to realize that the priority is the safety, and only when the safe environments are being provided, the well-being can happen. And when well-being is there, definitely the happiness will come, and also the child and adolescent will feel that their health is taken, mental health automatically will come into the picture, and they'll be able to cope with the day-to-day kind of stressors. In fact, Snehal madam in her kind of remarks was mentioning about the changes that are happening globally with the evolution of the technology, and in the earlier times, actually the experiences that children would have both at homes and outside home was completely different. But nowadays we are faced with a lot of challenges. Technology brings with it a lot of advantages, but a lot of challenges are also there. So to cope with this kind of challenges and to maintain the well-being and mental health, it's very important to prioritize safety.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And to conclude the session, I think Dr. Paramesh has a small note to give it to us. And with this, we can conclude the session, I think.
It's a pleasure to handing over 3 of the recently published article of ours from Current Science, Implication of Light Pollution and Human Health and Environment, Insights for the Indian Medical and Scientific Community, 1 paper. Second is Rapid Urbanization, Need for Retaining the Gomalas as Green Spaces in the Urban Environment. These 2 published in the Current Science, started by the Sir C.V. Raman, Institute of Science, our article. The recent one, the environmental risk factor in airway allergic diseases. This is the European Society of Medicine, our article published recently. I hand it over to them, environment related issue.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And also I want to ask last question for 30 seconds. 21st of June is very important day, 2015. Anybody knows? Yes.
International Day of Yoga.
International. Thanks for our national leaders. And also it's very important day. Why? Sun never sets on that day. In northern hemisphere, light always will be there. So yoga is going to take a like never shuts, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you all so much for your time.